Good afternoon, folks. Just testing, make sure we've got the internet working okay here. Just before 2 o'clock here in Liverpool, here in the UK. Good afternoon. Hello to Jenny in Australia. Good afternoon, Jenny. Hope you're well. And Jorg over in Germany. Marianne in NJ, New Jersey, USA. Good afternoon to you. Tony Purcell, who's down in Stoke, UK. Pino Le Giudice, my ciliegina, over in Reggio Calabria, in the south of Italy. Lovely to see you. A fabulous Mr. T, thank you very much. A Bavarian beer garden, I like the sound of that. Sue Walou, good afternoon to you. Steph October, hello from Coventry, good afternoon to you. Welcome on board. As you can probably see, it's not quite as bright and sunny here today. In fact, I wish I'd put my jumper on now. It's blinking freezing here, it's like middle of winter again. Colin from Buckinghamshire, good afternoon to you, Colin. And Sue down in South London, good afternoon. I hope you're all doing well. We're just going to give it a couple of minutes to give people a chance to get on board, those that are joining us this afternoon. And Maeve Averton, good afternoon to Maeve, up in North Liverpool, I think, somewhere. John Nelson, good afternoon from dull Oxfordshire. I think it's gone dull everywhere here today in UK, after all that lovely sunshine we had. Just before we start to this afternoon, I'll tell you a quick story, shall I? I nearly didn't make it today, and I'll tell you why. Just before we had the lockdown, I was going through dental treatment, you see. I was having some root canal surgery done, and it got halfway through the treatment, and then they brought this lockdown in. So I've been halfway through dental treatment for the past 10 weeks. Anyway, where I was having the work done, and it's cost me a fortune this already, I don't mind telling you. But I've got 10 weeks later, the work that's been done is beginning to deteriorate because it's not finished, you see. So it's affected my mouth and my tooth, you see. And I was a bit worried today. Did you ever see that? I was thinking about the Laurel and Hardy film, if you've ever seen that one, where Stan and Ollie get put in prison. And every time Stan speaks, he goes, have you seen that one? Where the prison governor says, it's sir to you, and he goes, Sir Stan Laurel. So I've been worried that I might end up speaking a bit like that today. So if I go a bit wobbly, you'll know why. Okay, we'll just say one or two more hellos before we start off the tour. We've got Pino Le Giudice, we've got Beatrice Schmidt, greetings from Berlin over in Germany, good afternoon to you. And we've got Anthony Hogan, good afternoon, Ant. He's one of the Mop Top Tour guides. We have the one and only Bill Smith this afternoon. Bill Smith, the sole, I told you this would happen. The sole surviving member of the sole surviving founder member of the Quarrymen Skiffle group. That's Bill Smith. So good afternoon to you, Bill. Hope you're well. We've got Jill watching as well. She lives in Gattaca, not far from us. Phil Ross. Keris, one of our regular tour guests from South Wales. Good afternoon to you. Jean Ann Goodbrand. Good afternoon to you too. So, right. We've just gone 2 o'clock now, so I'm going to make a start. Anybody else that wants to hop on, they can do. So a very warm welcome. It's StevieT here with you, of course. Once again, from the Mop Top Tours. That's Liverpool's favourite Beatles tour. Welcome on board for the Wavertree tour. This is going to be the last of the tours that we do. The live broadcasts. Certainly for the time being, anyway. And I thought I would finish off these little virtual tours with a little look around the Wavertree district. So let me just turn you around. Oh, I hope I can do this without switching you off. Ah, there we go. Fantastic. Right, so those of you that have been following us over the last few weeks, and thanks very much for your dedication. Gluttons for punishment, coming on week after week. No, thanks very much for joining us. Right, so just so you've got your bearings, the other week when we did the Penny Lane walk, we finished at Newcastle Road, which was the first house that John lived in when he was first born. Newcastle Road is literally just round the corner from here. It's a 2-minute walk from where we're starting off this tour today. And where I thought we'd start off today is at this fine building here, which is the Blue Coat School. It's a wonderful building, as you'll be able to see in a sec. It says here, founded 1708, but the original building wasn't here in 1708. This has been built in more recent years, this one, around the turn of the century. And let's see if we can just get a better view for you. Can you see that? Isn't that fantastic? Beautiful building. And once upon a time, this was actually an orphanage. And this is the orphanage where Alfred Lennon was staying. That's John Lennon's father. He was an orphan child, and this is where he stayed, in the Blue Coat in Wavertree. Isn't that a fantastic building? So there's a little connection with John Lennon. And I also wanted to show you today this park here, because we're going to have a little walk around this area. And this park here, this is the Wavertree Playground, or Wavertree Sports Ground. It gets called different things. It's known locally as the Mystery. The Mystery. And the reason why it's called the Mystery is that this was given to the city of Liverpool by a mystery benefactor. A 104-acre park. And it was donated to the city on the proviso that it would only ever be used by the people of Liverpool and for sports purposes. And it was actually donated in 1895, and that's what it remains to this day. It's all used here for sporting purposes. And you might be able to see in the distance, maybe not, but right over there you've got the a fantastic swimming pool there. I think it's Olympic-sized swimming pool, and you've got the tennis place there, tennis courts, and gymnasium and all kinds of athletic things. And that's why it's called the Mystery, you see, because it was a mystery who'd actually donated it. And for many years it remained a mystery, but then years later it was actually revealed who'd donated it, and the chap who donated it was Philip H. Holt, who was a wealthy ship trader, and the man who owned the Sudley estate, which again is not too far from here. So that's the Mystery. Sometimes we do come this route. When we come on the Mop Top Tour, we'll come round this direction. So a lot of you might recognise it along here, if you've ever been on the Mop Top Tour, or any other tour for that matter. Right, we're just going to have a little walk around here, say a few more hellos. We've got Christine Scott in Cheshire. Good afternoon to you. Cheshire, that's England, just down the road from here. Nice to see you. Susan Martin Greshmer, good afternoon to you. Jill Stein. Bear with me a second. Peter Kane, good afternoon to you, Peter. Virginia in Geelong, Australia. Dino Vescara, who's down in Milton Keynes, good afternoon, Dino. Phil Ross, New South Wales, Australia. Good afternoon to you. Marianne, I struggle with this every week. Marianne Gicholela, something like that. Good afternoon to you. Tom Troville over in Boston, USA, our old pal Tom. Good afternoon. Amanda Rees, who is in Tucson, Arizona. We've got people from all over the place today. Ontario, that's Lindsay in Ontario. Jamie, who is just down the road in Widnes. Dean Masterman, Oxlong, USA. Sarah Mortimer, watching in Salisbury. Good afternoon. Well, lovely stuff. I'll tell you what, it's really nice to see you all this afternoon. Like I say, it's not quite as nice weather-wise here today. It's a bit chilly, but not too bad. Anyway, as we have a little walk along here, this church here on the right-hand side. By the churchyard. This church actually dates back. It's quite an old church, this one. It goes back to 1796. 1796. That's older than some of your countries. The Holy Trinity Church here in Wavertree on Church Road, which will become relevant in a moment or two because a Beatles connection along here, Church Road. Aren't these beautiful? Rhododendrons, I think. Tony will tell us. Yeah, it's a lovely, lovely church, this. Obviously, it's been rebuilt and added to over the years. But something I'd like to just show you that's along here. I didn't know about this until a couple of years ago, when one of our Mop Top Tour guides, young Ant Hogan, who's watching now, local historian, published author, personality in his own right, he actually showed me this a couple of years ago when we were out touring together. Take a look at this, it's quite incredible. These steps here were put in, they must be well over 100 years old, these steps, and these were put in for horses and carriages that would pull up here, and especially people on horseback, to climb off the horses so they could get over to the church, which is just across the road, you see? Can you see that? And you can see how it's been worn out over the years, can you see? All the thousands and thousands of steps people have taken on these steps to go to the church. Isn't that absolutely incredible? Yeah, I thought so too. And I bet there's thousands of people go straight past that and don't even realise it's there. I know that I went past it probably 1,000 times and never even noticed it. You always notice things more when you're on foot, don't you? Hopefully you're doing a bit of walking yourselves around your local areas as well. Getting out in the fresh air during these very strange and weird times. I hope you're managing to get out and get a bit of fresh air, but keeping safe at the same time, of course. Okay, who else have we got on? We've got Gio Espinoza, hola desde Guatemala. Good afternoon, Gio. Pino Le Giudice, Anthony Hogan, Sarah Mortimer, Gemma Kay, Gemma K, good afternoon. Sens Legionstig from Stockholm, good afternoon. Nick Baggy Dickinson from Wigan, just down the road. We know Wigan well. We love Wigan. Wigan kebabs and Uncle Joe's mint bowls. We love it. Fantastic. Okay, so as we walk along here, this is Church Road. Now, some of you may be aware of a song by John Lennon called In My Life. Give us some thumbs ups if you know that song. I'm sure most of you will know that one. Well, the song In My Life, the one that we know and love, had been adapted from an original song that John had started writing that was really all about his memories of growing up in Liverpool. And he actually mentioned some places in the song. In fact, I'm going to stop over here and I'm just going to show you something that you're going to like. Bear with me a sec. There's a bit of walking on this in between stops, but bear with me, won't you? I've actually got a copy here of the original song lyrics to this song, the predecessor to In My Life, which I'm going to show you in a sec. And then I'm going to bring this to life for you in this area here. So bear with me one sec. I'm just going to sit down in this bus stop here, sort my paperwork out. Hope you're all okay out there. Bear with me one moment while I find this for you. Promise you I've got this somewhere in here. Ah, there we go. Right. This is a copy of the original lyrics. Let me see if I can just set you up there. Okay. So some of this you'll recognise, and some of it may be new to you. But I'll read it out for you anyway. There are places I'll remember all my life, though some have changed. Some forever, but not for better. Some have gone and some remain. You all recognise that, don't you? Of course you do. But what about this next bit? Penny Lane is one I'm missing. Up Church Road to the clock tower, in the circle of the Abbey, I have seen some happy hours. You haven't heard that bit before, have you? And then there's loads of crossings out and alterations, and then he abandoned the song. But that eventually became the song In My Life, of course. So where we actually are now, if you remember the other week when we finished off the tour, that was just down there by Newcastle Road, where John first lived. And then running up here is Church Road, because that takes you up to the church that we've just walked past. So up Church Road to the clock tower, which is there. Can you see? So that's what he's talking about in that song. I'll take you over for a closer look at the clock tower in a second. And he also talks about in the circle of the Abbey. Well, the Abbey, it wasn't a church, as what you'd imagine. It was a cinema. The Abbey Cinema. And this is the old Abbey Cinema. So this is what John's talking about in that first version of In My Life. In the circle of the Abbey. He always said they had lots of fun in the circle of the Abbey, chasing the girls in the circle, trying to grab a kiss, you see. Saturday night at the movies and all that. How cool's that? Yeah, I'll just see if we can get a nice picture of it for you around here. I know some of you like to get photograph downloads from these little tours, so I'll try to get a decent picture for you. There you go. You can see how it was a cinema, can't you? Oh, we've got Christine on from the town of 4,000 holes. Welcome on board. It's always nice to have people from Blackburn on. That's my hometown, of course, where I was born and bred. Blackburn in Lancashire, although I've lived in Liverpool now for over 30 years. Kind of getting used to living here now. And another place that's got a bit of a connection as well is this building across the road, which is the coffee house, the public house. Obviously all closed at the moment, like everywhere else. But the coffee house, this is where John's mother Julia worked. She was waiting on her, a barmaid here. And this is where it's reputed where she first met Bobby Dykins. John Dykins was his real name, but he was known as Bobby by everyone. Well, apart from John, he was known to John behind his back as Twitchy, because he had the nervous tick. So John used to call him Twitchy. Cheeky little thing, wasn't he? But yeah, so that's the coffee house pub. And they reckon that's around 200 years old, that pub. Pretty neat, isn't it? So if you ever come to Liverpool, that's another little place. These are all outside the city centre. You tend to find a lot of people when they come to visit Liverpool, they get as far as the city centre and that's it. But get yourself on the Mop Top Tour and we'll take you out and do a bit of sightseeing with you. And you can always hop on the bus yourselves if you don't want to do the tour. Just hop on the bus yourself and come and have a look round some of these other interesting places in the districts of Liverpool. It's noticeably busier today on the roads. A lot more cars and traffic out today. Mrs T and I are still on lockdown. We're not really going out at all. We're just, apart from our exercise walks. But Mrs T hurt her leg last week, so she's not been able to go on any exercise walks. She twisted her ankle and has had her foot up for the past week. So we've not been able to get out very much. In fact, she just sits on the couch shouting orders. Like Steptoe. Do you remember that episode of Steptoe when he has a bad back? When I say a bad back, I mean a bad back. He pretends to have a bad back. And he's shouting for Harold all the time. Harold! Harold! Well, that's been me this last week. Waiting on Mrs T hand and foot. But I don't mind. Anyway, that's the Picton clock. A little plaque here as well that tells you about this. Presented to the people of Wavertree in 1884 by Sir James Picton, architect, historian and politician, as a memorial to his wife, Sarah Pooley. Or Sarah Pooley. And that's the Picton clock. So when John talks about the clock in that song, that is what he's on about. So there you go. Anyway, how are we all doing? Are we having a nice time today? I know it's not quite as sunny, but it's all right. Once you get walking, it's not quite as chilly either. Here's something I want to quickly show you as well whilst we're in this area. This is a very historic thing. This dates back to 1796, I think it is, this one. Certainly the 1790s. And it's one of only two of these left in the city. As far as I'm aware anyway, you may know different. I'm only aware of two of these in the whole of Liverpool now. Let me show you this. Over 200 years old, this building. And it's the Picton Roundhouse. It's known as, even though it's not round, it's actually octagon in shape.
Look, you're up in there.
Ah, look who is here. Ladies and gentlemen, I nearly jumped out of my skin then.
I'm following you. I'm very engrossed.
Ladies and gentlemen, please say hello to the one and only Mr. Bill Smith, the sole surviving member of the Quarrymen. He's 80 years old next month, and look at him out on his bike up here. Isn't that a treat, ladies and gentlemen?
You need the exercise.
Well, we've got people from all over the world here, Bill.
All over the world.
Everywhere. Australia, America, Germany, Switzerland, Sweden. We've got people from Blackburn. Even Blackburn. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is Bill. If you haven't met Bill before, say hello, Bill.
Hello, Bill. Hello, folks. Hope you're having a good time all around the world. You didn't mention the Isle of Man. Anybody from the Isle of Man? No?
I don't think so. Not that as far as I know. But what a nice surprise to see you here. Out on your bike.
Maybe surprise you.
I know I nearly jumped out my blinking skin then.
Well, we should be locked up,
I know, but it's a bit spooky, isn't it, this, to begin with?
Yeah.
Oh, well.
On
Yeah,
Friday night drunks.
Yeah, this is actually an old lockup where they would put the drunks overnight. And like a very early form of police station, if you like. And it was opened up in fact, there's probably a plaque on this somewhere if I have a go and have a look. Here. Yeah, there we go. Built in 1796 to house drunks and criminals overnight, it later accommodated cholera victims and refugees from the Irish famine. And it was in about 1840s, I think. It used to have a flat roof on here, but they kept finding that the people that were locked up were escaping through the roof. So they put this an actual roof on it, so it was like impossible for them to escape. And there's only 2 of these as far as I know. Unless, Bill, do you know any different?
No, I don't know. I only know it's a lockup.
Well, the other one is up in a place called Everton, in the Everton area. An Everton football club, if you know anything about football at all, they actually use a picture of the lockup on the emblem for their badge. If you don't know what I'm talking about, look up Everton Football Club and you'll be able to see the little image of the lockup. So there we go, it's not a historic thing. And there's thousands of people drive past this every day, and I bet half of them don't know what it is. Right, a few more hellos. We've got Lorraine Keeley in Canada. Greetings. We've got Auntie Ann Linus on as well. Hello to Auntie Ann. That's my lovely sister-in-law. Kathy Lively. Hello to Bill. Pino says hello. Barbara Hunterman. Cool to see Bill on his bike. It is, yeah. Bill looking well. Can Bill give us a song?
Not now. I'm out some puff.
Oh my gosh. I don't think we need to go there. Are you coming for a walk or what?
Yeah, we'll walk.
Okay,
Yeah.
Bill's going to walk with us while we show you a few other things of interest along here. How you all doing anyway? Having a nice time today on this? Isn't this totally mop-top-tabulous? And especially having our old pal Bill on board, safely distanced, of course. We don't want to get too close to him. Mind you, I don't want to get too close to him on a normal day. No, we're missing going for a pint, aren't we, Bill?
Certainly are.
Bill and I often go to our little local and have a little beer. In fact, some of you have even joined us when you've been on the Mop Top Tour. Come and have a little pint with us after the tour. And we're always pleased to welcome you to do that if Bill's around and if it fits in with your schedules. We can't always do it though, of course, otherwise we'd be out every night and get in trouble.
Put on a few stone as well.
And put on have you put any weight on, Bill?
Taking it off.
Have you? Well, I think I've put about in fact they even say there's a thing going around now called the COVID 10, which is the £10 you put on during lockdown. Right, I'm going to point out a couple of things here. Some of these things, you know, Ant Hogan, our colleague Ant Hogan, one of the Mop Top Tour guides, he sent me loads of stuff through about Wavertree, because Ant was actually used to live here at one time, just round the corner from here, and he's got a really good knowledge of the whole area and very historic things. This where the Lamb pub is here, well, this section of the pub a few years ago, it just fell apart and the whole building collapsed. It was a right mess. But this used to be the home of Home James Travel, which was a coach company that used to take people out on day trips on a charabanc. And George Harrison always said that when he went on the Magical Mystery Tour, it always reminded him of Home James Travel that was on his doorstep, because this is where they would come round to jump on a charabanc and go on a day trip. And of course, like I say, the building, it wasn't demolished, it literally fell to pieces, and they had to rebuild it a few years ago. And just over here as well, this is quite an interesting thing. I won't cross the road because it's very, very busy along here. But can you see this this thing just across the road? That's the sole surviving, as far as we know, the sole surviving Georgian window in the whole of Liverpool. So it's got to be one of the oldest windows around, this one. A genuine, yeah, well, we will see if we can just get across, because so you can get a bit of a closer look at it. Number 102 High Street, Picton High Street. Very, very historic. And apparently a few years ago this whole thing was really falling to pieces, but then a gentleman who bought the shop, bought the premises, he was an expert wood maker and managed to fix up bits that were broken. So isn't that a cool thing?
Welcome back on the door.
Yeah, welcome back. Yeah, there's a little notice here. Liverpool's only surviving example of a Georgian bow-windowed shop front. So look out for that when you come down Picton High Street. I know lots of locals that are watching our videos. Lots of people that live locally have been following at the antics, and some of the feedback we've had has been brilliant. So thanks very much to all you guys, and hopefully you'll be able to spot this next time you come down here as well. Well, what a treat having Mr. Bill Smith with us today as well. Bill of the Quarrymen fame. Yeah, we'll see if we can just pop it back across. We don't normally come this way when we do the tours, because it's a working environment along here. Hello, Simon. How are you, mate? He's a lovely fella. He normally has a big thick mop of curly hair. He's cut it all off, obviously, for the... Well, whilst he's been on lockdown, everyone's had to go in for short haircuts. How you get on with your haircut, Bill? Yeah, you're looking a little bit hippie-ish. Yeah, well, take your cap off. Let's have a look at you. What you look like.
I had it under control, but with a handful of gouts, I haven't been able to cut my hair for the last few weeks.
It looks like an explosion in a mattress factory.
Yeah. Well, Boris has set the trend.
Boris, yes. Oh.
Full style.
Yes, indeed. Right, just before we go around to George's, I want to just take you down here for a little look down this road here, which is I want to just show you down here where George Harrison was christened. I'm going to show you a few photographs in a minute as well, just to help bring the story together. Oh, there is the Mop Top Mobile, which of course is redundant at the moment because we're not doing tours. In fact, we're not doing anything at the moment, but we will be back. And we'll be doing the we'll be doing some staycation trips hopefully with you, people that live locally. If you want to do a staycation, have a trip into North Wales or up to the lakes, we're going to be doubling up the Mop Top Mobile for that. So get in contact with us if you need a lift anywhere.
It's a lovely walker, so I can just stand there and watch you.
There you go. 80 years of age next month, ladies and gentlemen. The one and only Bill Smith, the sole surviving member of the Quarrymen Skiffle Group, still as naughty as ever.
Won't be surviving much longer in your company.
Doing wheelies. And here's the church, folks. This is Our Lady of Good Help.
The vandals must have been breaking windows.
Where's that?
Yeah.
Oh, isn't that awful? There's lights on inside. There's lights on. Yeah. No. But anyway, that's where George Harrison was christened.
Just down the road, Muswell's Lane. Just got to be built now.
And we're going to take you around now and show you. We're just broadcasting around the world at the moment. Go on, Bill. We're going to have a little walk now up to.
I've got to go uphill now. I've got to walk.
We're going to go back up now to the birthplace and childhood home of George Harrison. Something I forgot to mention as well. I knew I'd forget something. That road that we've just been crossing, that very busy road, Picton High Street, that's where some people, i.e. Paul McCartney, that's where he says that George Harrison did his audition for John to join the group on Picton High Street. Some of you may know about that story. There's different versions to this, though, depending who's telling the story, as to where George first met John. But according to Paul, he was introduced to John on the upper deck of a double-decker bus on Picton High Street, and that's where he played a little tune called Raunchy. Do you know that one, Bill?
Yeah.
Down, 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 down. It just sort of goes on and on like that. And he did this this rendition of Raunchy, a not perfect version of Raunchy, and that was good enough to get him into the group. But a few years before that is when he lived here in Arnold Grove. This is where he was born. A little bit of trivia for you. Some of you may know this, but some of you may not. This is a good one for the quizzes, this one. For Dino's quiz, this will come up on Dino's quiz, this type of question. What was George Harrison's pseudonym? George, when he stopped in the hotels, he wouldn't sign in as George Harrison. He would always use a false name. And that name was Arnold Grove. And this is where he lived. In fact, Bill, just hold on to that for a second, would you? Because I want to just see if I can show our viewers a couple of photographs here. As a bit of a treat. So that's where he was first living. Okay, and then it was a New Year's Eve of 1950. They moved down to Speke. So that's a photograph when he lived in Speke. Some of you may have seen these before. Just get Bill to hold onto the camera. And then they moved for a final time to number 174 Mackett's Lane in the south part of Liverpool. That was the last house that they actually lived in Liverpool.
Oh,
yeah. And that photograph there, let me just share this with you. This was actually given to me by a friend of mine who lives just down the road from us. And this is a photograph of a pal called Albie. Can you see him there? And that photograph was taken in 1963 next door to that house there. Albie lived right next door. And that's Albie pictured with his plastic Beatles wig and his plastic Beatles guitar. Can you see that? But Bill, when they showed, you know that I was too young for the Beatles. They'd already kind of come and gone by the time I got interested in music. But one of my brothers, it brought the memories flooding back for me. One of my brothers must have had that get-up. Because I remember finding one of those plastic Beatles wigs in the back of a cupboard. And they were really tight, can you see?
I'm going to say it wouldn't fit your head, would it?
No, they were really tight. And I remember saying to my mum, I said, Mum, this plastic Beatles wig's slicing my ears off. And my mum said, you're 18 for goodness sake. Go and get a job. Anyway, I'll take you down now and show you the house. This is Arnold Grove. It's a quiet little cul-de-sac, Arnold Grove. It's looking really pretty as well. Look at all these lovely hanging baskets along here. What a picture. Isn't that lovely? Oh. Hello. We're not allowed in. Oh right, okay. We're not allowed in, Bill, because of the COVID.
Oh.
Okay, we're not allowed down there because of the COVID, apparently. But this is where they are, where George lived anyway, at number 12 Arnold Grove. So you can get an idea of what the house looked like anyway. Oh yeah, that's an oldie, isn't it? An oldie but a goodie. Yeah, so there we go. But isn't that looking pretty down there at the moment with all the hanging baskets? Done a lovely job. Obviously a little bit frightened of having people around there at the moment. But normally when you come here, they're very, very welcoming. And we'll normally say hi to everyone as you come here. So there's never a problem down here with folks. Just don't come round late at night. Anyway, there we go. So let's have one or two more hellos before we finish off this little tour. Who else we've got on? How young was George when he left Arnold Grove and he moved to Speke? I think he was around 15 or 16, wasn't he? No, he wasn't. He left here on the New Year's Eve of 1950. So it would have been just before his 8th birthday when he moved down to Speke. But that's a very good question. We've got Lino up in Sheffield. Lino says hi as well. Thanks for that question there, Hank Sands. Barbara Hunterman. Hello. TJ McG. Very good. Right, there's just one more thing I want to show you whilst we're down here as well. Just to finish off this little tour with you today. I hope you've all enjoyed a little look round Wavertree. There's just one little thing that I want to show you, and it's literally a little thing, this, Bill.
Smallest in the world, isn't it?
It is the smallest, or it used to be the smallest in the country. The smallest house in England.
93 High Street.
Number 93 High Street, yeah. How small is that for someone's house?
One up, one down.
It was, yeah, 6 foot wide, and I think it was about 14 foot deep. And it now forms part of the pub, which is the Cock and Bottle. So if you ever come up here, you can go and have a look.
Unfortunately, it's not open at the moment.
No, none of these places are open. Everything's closed until further notice. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that just about wraps us up for today. And I'd like to say thanks very much for joining us, me and Bill. So we, socially distanced. There's Bill, there's me. So I hope you've all enjoyed that little walk around Wavertree. And that's going to be the final one of these walking tours that I'm going to do now for a little while, I think. Next week, we're going to do the premiere of our latest film that we've made. And this is going to be a treat for you for next week. It's, I don't know if you're aware, but we are amateur filmmakers, and I work closely with my good friend Pino Di Giudice, who's in the south of Italy. Pino's done all the work on this, let's be fair. He's compiled this fantastic film with pictures and music. I've done the narration on it, on the film. And we're going to do the premiere of this next week. In fact, I think we'll probably do it on Wednesday afternoon at the same time, since you've got into the habit of seeing us on a Wednesday. So on Wednesday afternoon, well, it's Wednesday afternoon in UK, it's 1400 BST. Check what time that is where you live. And we'll do this premiere of this little movie, which is going to be all about Brian Epstein. It's the early life of Brian Epstein. It's not a long movie, it's about 20 minutes long, but I know you're going to love it. It's a lovely thing that Pino's put together. So look out for that next week. I'll send you some reminders about the premiere. So look out for that. But in the meantime, thanks very much for joining us today. From me and Bill.
That's all, folks.
That's all, folks. Something like that. Mad. Okay, folks, peace and love from Liverpool. We'll see you next time. Bye for now.